Hi, this is William Miller with Discovering America on Two Wheels, and I want to welcome you to this video for rules, guidelines, tips, and information for the bicycle tours that will be offered by Discovering America on Two Wheels. It's basically a collage of video segments that I shot while riding one of the routes that we'll be doing on one of the tours. It shows a variety of situations, scenarios, crossings, signals that will be used, different road surfaces including sidewalks, hike and bike paths, streets, and shoulders of highways. It's the type of conditions that you would encounter probably in any urban environment, and it should be helpful for those that are preparing to go on this tour, or for anybody that's just riding around the block, riding around the city, or maybe even riding across the country. I hope you enjoy this video as much as I did putting it together, and just remember this: please be safe, secure your bike and belongings when you leave them, and enjoy yourself while you're discovering America on two wheels. I'll demonstrate what we're going to do as a group when we come up to the Oak Drive signal. Okay, the first thing we'll do is hit the button for the crosswalk, and then we'll proceed across when the signal is okay to go. Just as we're doing here. This will be the same for the Oak Street crossing, and the This Way Street crossing. You know, just some tips on riding on these relatively narrow sidewalks. They're not really hike and bike paths, they're just regular sidewalks. You have to be aware of what I call the ups and downs when you go across streets, and look for oncoming traffic from both intersections, and be prepared to adjust to these changing elevations on these sidewalks. Also, you can see a pedestrian ahead of us. The rule for cycling is that you do yield to pedestrians, so that'll be something that we'll have to manage as we go along these sidewalks. The other thing I want to talk about is, you notice that these sidewalks are not necessarily level, they're at an angle, and sometimes they protrude up, they have a lip on them, 3 or 4 inches in some places. If you find yourself going off of the sidewalk, what you don't want to do is try to pull yourself back on the sidewalk while you're riding if there's a lip there. Rider on your left. What you want to do is just go ahead and ride smoothly off the sidewalk into the grass, stop your bike, and then walk your bike back up on the sidewalk so that you don't catch your bike tire or wheel on that lip and end up falling. So that's just a tip for managing your risk while you're going down these sidewalks. Communication, both verbal and by signals, is key to identifying obstructions, hazards, or things that you need to pay attention to while you're riding down a sidewalk or any roadway while you're on your bicycle. And we'll talk a little bit more about those signal criteria in a later section of the video. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the signals that I referred to. For the person who's leading, their responsibility is to signal the rest of the group of their intentions or of any obstructions in the pathway ahead. The way you do that is the standard hand signals for turning or stopping, which is left, right, and stop. If you see an obstruction and you're the first person in line of the group, you show the obstruction at least 30 to 50 feet ahead. If there's an obstruction to the left, you do the downward 45-degree angle to the left. If there's one to the right, you do the downward 45-degree angle to the right. So those are some of the signals that you need to be aware of, and you need to be able to execute, understand, and respond to, whether you're the first person in the group or the last person in the group. One other thing is that you also need to signal ahead to pedestrians, as we talked about, to let them know that there will be riders approaching them and what side you'll be on, which should be the left as you pass the pedestrians. But the key is you do have to yield to pedestrians. Also, when we're on a road surface, a street, a highway, any road surface, we are we are considered a moving vehicle, which means we have to obey all the laws that apply to a car, truck, or any other moving vehicle. Okay, one other thing regarding this signals that is very important, and it's especially important if we're riding on a road surface, street, highway, shoulder, whatever. If a person in a group ahead of you, the leader, or someone back in the group, gives a signal for left, right, or stop, and you're the last person in the group and you see that signal, you need to repeat that signal so that anyone behind us, cars or other vehicles, know what's going on with the group. Okay, so that's a critical part of the signaling process. Okay, when the signal is green, we'll go ahead and proceed across this intersection. You know, the protocol we're going to use for riding on any street surface is that I'm going to be to the outside in the group, and I want the line of riders to the inside so that I'm between the riders and the passing traffic. That's the protocol we'll use while we're riding on street surfaces. I want to bring up one other thing. For you folks who are beginning cyclists who are going on this tour, this is pretty flat terrain, but every once in a while you'll get a little rise in the terrain or in the road, and you want to be prepared for that by gearing down your bike a little bit so that when you do stop and then you start again, you don't have to stand up and like pump real hard to get your bike going. So that's just another tip for navigating the tour a little bit more efficiently. This is another type of road surface that we're going to have on our tour. It's a caliche road. So be aware of that. You know, obviously I'm riding on a road bike. When you get into this situation and on sidewalks where there's uneven surfaces, a mountain bike with the bigger tires is probably a little bit more comfortable and manageable to ride. But just be aware we do have a variety of surfaces, caliche road, shoulders, sidewalks, hike and bike paths, and obviously streets and shoulders of highways. Anytime we get out or get off of our bikes and leave our bikes and go somewhere, it's each rider's responsibility to take care of the security of their bike. Make sure you remove any valuables that you have on the bike, and also use a good quality bike cable and lock to secure your bike to some sort of a permanent pole or rail or whatever is available at each side. And we'll talk about that a little bit, but just want to make sure that we're also not only covering safety but also security on the Bradsport Bicycle Tour. You know, it's really neat running along these little hike paths through the Gulf Coast Bird Observatory. One thing I need to make you aware of, this is the Gulf Coast, and as the temperatures increase, you're going to get more and more mosquito activity. So if you're coming on the tour, make sure you bring your appropriate insect repellent and be prepared to use it, especially when you get off your bike in any of these wooded areas. One thing that you need to be aware of, I mentioned it earlier in the video talking about your shoes. If you're wearing the bicycling shoes with clips, if you have exposed clips, obviously you're not going to be able to get out here and walk around on these trails. So you need to be aware of that. Either bring another pair of like tennis shoes. Okay, we're on the shoulder of 2004 here, just south of 332, and this is a nice wide shoulder. Again, we'll follow the protocol of me being to the inside and the riders on the tour being to the outside. You know, when you're going along these sidewalks and you got these uneven surfaces and the bushes protruding out, and you know, entries and exits from these plazas and shopping malls, it's just like driving. You just have to ride defensively, be aware of your surroundings, and make good decisions. So that's all a part of being on this tour. You know, as we approach this bridge again here after Portaluca, this little narrow bridge, I want to give you a little tip on, you know, crossing narrow pathways. It's what I call the longer perspective. You want to look beyond a narrow path. Don't be looking side to side at the rails. Look beyond the path, you know, further down, and center up on the sidewalk and keep your view there as opposed to the narrowing down of the pathway, and you'll be okay when you go through little tightened down spots like that narrow bridge. So that's just a tip for navigating these sidewalks and some of the challenges that you face on them.